In this lesson, we will describe the new religious movements that swept the United States after 1790, explain the new philosophy that offered the alternative to traditional religion, characterize the nature of utopian communities, and describe the reforms demanded in schools, mental hospitals, and prisons. The Second Great Awakening. During the early 19th century, people again turned to religion because of their changing society. During the First Great Awakening, the belief system was different than during the Second Great Awakening. During the First Great Awakening, fate was controlled by an omnipotent God. And people could not save themselves from damnation. Before you were born, it was determined whether you would be saved or not. So religion equaled fear. People were sinners in the hands of an angry God, not a God that forgives or gave you a second chance. This took place in America and in Europe. And Jonathan Edwards was the famous minister who preached that salvation was not possible because you were predestined to be saved or not, and that there was nothing that you could do in your life to change it. During the Second Great Awakening, there were different beliefs. In this Great Awakening, people had free will to make choices, and the choices could affect whether you were saved or not. You had control of your own destiny. The focus was on saving your soul, not on damnation and not having any choice or any opportunity to redeem yourself. This led to reforms in the northern part of the United States, and Charles Grandison Finney, who is pictured here in this picture, was a preacher during that time period who was very famous and preached that people could be saved and that you could seek salvation. Conversions bring thousands of people back to the church. Revivals are held to bring about converts, and new converts were asked to examine their souls and to become better people. Religion in the 19th century. African American churches also are going to unite slaves in a common belief of freedom. The churches in the North, much like Reverend Richard Allen's Bethel African Church, Richard Allen is pictured here, and the site of the Bethel Church is pictured here, provided a cultural center for African Americans as well as for slaves. As a result of the Second Great Awakening, converts are going to join other denominations, and all of those denominations are going to gain members, as you can clearly see noted here on the increase in this graph titled The Growth of Denominations. Transcendentalism. In the early and mid-1800s, a group of people started looking at the world, religion, and changing economy very differently. They sought a simpler life, and they focused on emotions and feeling. Ralph Waldo Emerson was the leader of a group called the Transcendentalists. Transcendentalism was a philosophical and literary movement that emphasized living a simple life and celebrating the truth found in nature and personal emotion and imagination. Henry David Thoreau wrote two books, one titled Walden and one titled Civil Disobedience, and encouraged self-reliance and peacefully refusing to obey laws that you considered unjust, which is the definition of civil disobedience. Unitarians also emphasized reason during this time period, and they appealed to people's conscience to try to achieve perfection, and they believed that conversion was a gradual process. This is a picture of Ralph Waldo Emerson, and this is a picture of Henry David Thoreau, along with a quote from here from Walden. Utopian communities were experimental groups who tried to create a utopia, or a perfect place. There are a number of different groups, as you can see indicated here on the map of the United States during that time period, and you can see them listed down here in the key. New Harmony Utopian Community wanted to provide an answer to problems of inequity caused by the Industrial Revolution. They largely failed due to financial problems and due to disagreements among the members of what their perfect society should look like. Brooks Farm was another utopian community that was founded by George Ripley. And they wanted to create a more wholesome and simple and less competitive life and society. But they were destroyed by a fire in 1847 and disbanded and did not continue. The Shaker community was founded by Mother Ann Lee. This utopian community forbid marriage and sexual relations. They depended on adoption to gain members, and they actually failed because they did not have enough members to survive. The Oneida religious community was a utopian society where members shared property and spouses. They planned when people were having babies, and they planned child rearing. And they actually made silverware for profits. The name of the silverware company that they founded is called Oneida. You may have some of that silverware in your own home. Prison reform. The religious revival and the Second Great Awakening also spurs a number of different reforms. Prison reform was one of the reforms that attention was drawn to by a man named Alex de Tocqueville, who visited America to observe the prison system, and he was shocked at the amount of abuses that he found. A woman named Dorothea Dix, who is pictured here in this picture, was horrified to see that people who are mentally ill and people who are handicapped were put in prisons alongside violent criminals simply because people did not know how to help them. She leads the drive to build separate facilities for mentally ill people, and she is responsible for the idea that rehabilitation can help people who are mentally ill and that they can become better. School reform is another reform that is happening during that time period. A man named Horace Mann, who is pictured here, pushed for free and compulsory education. Compulsory means you have to go to school. It's mandatory for all children. He helped establish tax-supported public schools, implement a longer school year, and helped provide teacher training. He also used McGuffey readers to teach children to read, and these readers combined a phonics system with stories encouraging hard work, punctuality, and sobriety to teach children how to be hard workers as well as how to read. Catherine Beecher is a woman who recruited spinster women to be teachers, and spinster women are women who were young and unmarried. Sometimes older and unmarried as well. And so Catherine Beecher was responsible for bringing a lot of women to the teaching career. In our next lesson, we will continue to look at some of the reforms that were sweeping the United States during the early 1800s.